of its twisted sense of justice, its only redemption will be in its death when we set its corrupt corpse aflame as furry, fun-loving Ewoks dance in the background. Nah, 2020 was Walter White. It started off innocent and unassuming enough, but then it got sick and used its sickness as an excuse to give everyone else the blues. It sent the cops after the wrong folks, manipulated us into being complicit in its mayhem, and went out in a blaze of glory, lying on the ground amongst the bodies of its many prey with a smile as crooked as its soul. Nah, forget all that. 2020 was Donald Trump. It grabbed us by the you-know-what and excused itself with its celebrity. It spent its whole term acting like it didn't want to be here. Then when it was time for it to leave, it refused to concede. It left our map filled in red, sandwiched by the blues, just to go out like a sore loser. 2020 was the answer to a question even Alex Trebek never dared to ask. What is Jeopardy? 2020 was a phenomenon so phenomenal that it earned the right to stand in for multiple parts of speech at the same time. Noun. 2020 as noun. This 2020 right here gonna stop messing with me. 2020 as verb. You better get from around here for our 2020 hotel. 2020 as adjective. That was a real 2020 thing for you to do. And definitely interjection. 20 freaking 20. So come 2021, come. Be the return of our Jedi Knight in shining karma, rising up against thine tyrannical father, that the galaxy might be a better, safer place. Come 2021, come. Be Walter White's last good deed in spite of himself. The El Camino which spirits us Jesse Pink men away to at least one successful Netflix sequel as we break from the bad and squeal in incredulous ecstasy at escaping the awful ardor of our unjust incarceration. Come 2021, Kamala. Inaugurate us into the highest of climes. Be our reward for biding our time, for when 2020 began, our celebratory and silly New Year's hashtag was hashtag 2020 vision, hey. But now that we have survived 2020 and all of its fits and starts of tomfoolery, now that we have divorced this soulless, wanton parasite disguised as a calendar year, this festering boil in the appearance of an annum, on December 31st, may we riotously rail old Lang Syne the whole dang time, having survived a serial killer so selfish that the only reason it didn't kill us all was because it needed some of us to keep itself alive. And as the kazoos and firecrackers sound the death knell of our long-suffering arch nemesis, may we tweet our triumphant tukuses off with a new hashtag, not 2020 vision, hey, but rather 2020 hindsight, as we give this year a sight of our hind parts and cater wall to the rafters, F 2020. Peace, good people. Welcome to Distance Learning, the closing event of the DC Teacher Art Show, curated by the brilliant and talented Sudeka and Zenga Terrell. I don't know if I have time to do one more piece, Sudeka. Yep, do one more piece and then we're gonna get the going on. So I'm now gonna do a piece that was quoted in the exhibit. I had the honor of being featured in it along with other artists who I look forward to interviewing and introducing this evening. And this piece is called COVID, the 5 Stages of Grief.
Mine too, it's not a problem.
The first stage of grief is denial. So when COVID-19 first appears, our leadership will call it China's issue, as if pathogens were as nationalist as these cats is. And speaking of our leadership, we will deny that they are ours, as if our not my president hashtags will vaccinate us from a nonpartisan nano menace, which doesn't distinguish between left or right, wing or lung, as if voting no confidence in Captain Clueless will make us anything less than passengers aboard his soon-to-be crashing Titanic, headed straight toward the ice, baby. We won't stop, collaborate, or listen when the CDC tells us, wash your hands, protect yourself, put on your mask, show me social distancing. We'll look at them like they just said something mystical. And when they ask us what we're doing, we'll say, ooh, nothing. Now see, the second stage of grief is anger. So when COVID-19 makes its inevitable stateside debut, our fearless leader will trump his previous rhetoric, escalating from calling it China's issue to straight up Chinese flu. And when some journalists ask him about his earlier discounting of the potential danger of the epidemic turned pandemic, he asks, you kiss your monarchs with that mouth? Why don't you take some bleach and wash it out? Meanwhile, the same president who, when pressured to prioritize people over paper, countered that the solution shouldn't be worse than the problem, well, he will readily recommend untested and questionable quasi-COVID-19 medicines with potentially deadly side effects. But hey, I guess that would be one way to get past your infection, your death. Now, the third stage of grief is bargaining. So let's make a deal. If I tell you that two of the most COVID-19 ravaged wards in DC are in Southeast with one hospital to share between, maybe you can tell me what kind of peeps coincidentally live in these streets. I'll give you a hint. Always bet on Black. Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. But COVID-19 is eating Ward 7 and 8 alive. And I live in Ward 5. So give me 5 on the Black hand side if you could tell me by what kind of providential design did the only hospital in my hood close in 2019. After 158 years, the longest continually operating hospital in DC closed just in time. But that would be irony. And irony isn't one of the stages of grief, but irony is something that grief sometimes hides behind. And speaking of grief, the fourth stage of grief is depression. Too exhausted with exasperation to think this is a battle we can actually win, I'll assume we've already lost. Assume the virus has already infected everyone I come across. Assuming I'm sharing these words during a Memorial Day weekend where I've already seen pictures of a crowded Ocean City despite unprecedented COVID spikes in MD, assume the next memorial will be for we. And assuming I even live long enough to see a vaccine, excuse me if I decline, see, Drew got to the point he do not do flu shot because he be too Tuskegee to trust easy. And it's not that I'm anti-vax, I just know what Henrietta lacks. And I know hella well how this country will take your Black magic, bottle it up and sell it back to you as a cure that you can't even afford. Which brings me to the fifth and final stage of grief, acceptance. Accept the fact that we will never go back to normal. Accept the fact that this is not necessarily something to fear, as our normal was necessarily what got us here. Accept the possibility that maybe COVID can't be cured because maybe COVID is the cure. COVID, capitalism only values infinite dollars. COVID, cure our violently intolerant demeanor. COVID, correct our viciously inequitable district. COVID, courageously our voices inspire defiance. COVID, changing ourselves, victory is destined. COVID, come out, virus is dead. Thank you all so much for listening. And at this time, I would like to pass the mic and the floor to our curator, Ms. Sudeka Nzenga Terrell.
Ooh, let's give Drew a hand clap and an air clap for that. So tonight, you guys, we are going to celebrate the spoken word artists who contributed to our show. And we've invited a few guest spoken word artists and musicians to come and give us a piece in the open mic style that you can experience at Spit That on Thursday nights. I'm really excited for what we have coming up. Drew will be back for us later on tonight to continue hosting the poetry version of our reception this evening. But with no further ado, I would like to welcome the executive director from the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities, Hiran Serkey Burhan.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much, Reka. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, Drew. What words, what rhythm. Beautiful, really beautiful. My name is Hiran Serkey Burhan. I serve as the executive director for the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities. Thank you for inviting me back, and thank you for everyone who's joining us today for the closing event of distance learning. Interestingly, it's exactly a year since we at the Commission pulled out and started working from home as other district agencies as well. So this is a weird year. It's a year to celebrate. It's also a testament to all of our resilience that we're here today and doing things slightly differently, but still doing things. It's been a very, very difficult year, but we have resilience to show for it. This exhibition also is a testament to that resilience and the resourcefulness, really the deep resourcefulness of artists and the arts, and particularly arts educators. This exhibition was amazing. I've enjoyed going back again and again to look through it. It's powerful, it's moving, and it speaks directly to this moment in time. I know there's a very full evening ahead and many talented individuals will be coming to the stage. So let me just offer my sincere congratulations and appreciation to the curator, to you, Zuleika and Zinga Terrell. With a name like Zinga, we know you're a warrior in more ways than one. And so I just say congratulations. Congratulations also to all the arts teachers that have been featured in this exhibition. It's so important, the work that you do, cultivating young folks. It's thankless, but it is the most important work that you do as teachers of our young folks. So thank you, everyone. And I will stay on to listen to more of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would love to take this opportunity to welcome everybody once again to the closing reception for a distance learning. This show has been absolutely amazing to curate and put together. It's a lot of work and a lot of support from our wonderful teachers. We got 21 DC area art teachers together and asked them to show us their work, addressing what their experiences were and how they felt about the year 2020. And the reception that we got was nothing short of amazing. 13 of our 21 teachers are from the Friendship Public Charter School District, or school public charter school system. And we were really happy to be able to partner with Friendship Public Charter Schools. The grant writer for Friendship is going to be one of our performers this evening, and I'm really excited to hear from her. It was an amazing partnership and an amazing opportunity to really have a chance to highlight our frontline workers and unsung heroes. Our teachers were absolutely amazing and did an absolutely amazing job putting together their work and submitting their work and getting this theme together so that we could all have this experience. I have several times said that the work that they submitted is nothing short of history. This collection of art really highlights and showcases a time that I think most of us probably never thought that we were going to see in our lives, not just the pandemic, but also the social unrest that followed the pandemic, and quite frankly, the presidential election that we experienced at the end of the year. It's been a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so to be able to collect art and to collect art from some of the district's most important workers is an absolute honor to me. So I would love to start out by giving love and acknowledgement to our teachers and to our school districts. Several of the teachers are independent contractors, so they contract with schools to offer a multitude of programs, and that includes our two spoken word artists. And so this evening, I really wanted to take an opportunity to kind of switch gears a little bit and give a different kind of feel and highlight the importance of the spoken word artists, because I feel like their words really lent an amazing amount of movement and definition to the exhibit as a whole. And I think that it helped really bring together two very different but very important experiences that happened last year, which of course is the pandemic and the social unrest. And I thought that the things that they had to offer were absolutely beautiful and absolutely poignant. And so I want to take us through a tour, and in this tour we're going to see the poetry from both Drew Anderson and from we're going to see poetry from both Drew Anderson and from Bomani Armah in the exhibition. I am very excited to be able to highlight their performances this evening. So we got to hear the poem that a fraction of the poem that Drew just performed is in the exhibit, and it's actually the first piece in the exhibit. And as I get ready to pull up the exhibit, I want to share with you guys a really interesting thing, which is that originally when we put the call out and we asked for teachers, we had a teacher who he submitted a piece called The 5 Stages of Grievance, which I thought was a really important theme. And I had somewhat centered some of the layout around that. And then we could not get back in touch with this teacher. He disappeared. And so as I was kind of reconfiguring what was happening, and I was in conversation with Drew and with Bomani, and Drew sent his poem, it was like kismet, how it was exactly what we needed. We really needed, because I feel like everybody went through 5 stages of grief. And I thought that it was really important to highlight that this exhibition, it is a grieving type of exposition of exhibition. It is us really experiencing things that are not always pretty and that are not always beautiful, and trying to figure out how to share and talk and continue to feel uplifted. And I thought that Drew's words with COVID just perfectly summed up a lot of the things that we were experiencing and a lot of the things that we were feeling. And so I would like to take you guys now to the to the tour. And if you have not already, you can visit DC Teacher Art Show, and you can see this work from our wonderful teachers. The commission was able to get a grant, or get a version of their gallery built. And so if you are on cell phone, you have to download the app. It's a free app. Once you download the app, you'll be able to see not just this gallery, but many other galleries, and you can peruse many art galleries, anytime if you're a big art fan. And you can also stay in touch with the commission and see what are the next shows that the commission is going to lay out. And as they are laid out, and hopefully I see that Sarah Gordon's in the room. If you guys could put the contact information for the commission so people can subscribe and get on the email list, and not just find out, what the next grant opportunities are, but what the next art openings are, because I want you all to make sure that you're staying abreast of the many opportunities that the DC Commission for the Arts and Humanities offers for artists to showcase their work, and the opportunities that they have coming up next that they're showing in their gallery, that are also going to continue being in a virtual platform until, and hopefully, as a continuation once doors open back up. So I am on our gallery tour site right now. So again, that's dcteacherartshow.com. And I'll read to you our description, which is: 21 Washington, D.C. area art teachers examine isolation and mental health during the 2020 pandemic and social unrest. Through portraiture, sculpture, print, digital, abstract art, and spoken word, artists convey their observations of culture, how they manage the time in quarantine after schools closed in-person learning, their continued connection to the youth and communities they teach, and the importance of having this opportunity to focus on creating. A virtual platform is being used due to COVID-19 restrictions. This exhibition was made possible by an art exhibition grant from the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. And so, let us enter. And, as I told you guys last time, bear with me. My daughter can do these, and she does these so simple. And she laughs at me as I'm trying to as I'm trying to navigate. She thinks it's so funny. And all right, so here we go. We are going to enter in. And so we're going to go through it twice. I'm going to kind of walk you through the direction I would go. I laid it out because I wanted us to have a very specific experience. And so I'll talk a little bit about that as we move through it. And then we'll go through a second time, and you guys will be able to see each piece individually. And so we started out with Drew Anderson's words about COVID. Capitalism only values infinite dollars. Cure our violently intolerant demeanor. Correct our viciously inequitable district. Courageously, our voices inspire defiance. Changing ourselves, victory is destined. come out, virus is dead. And I felt like those words were really reflective of the 5 things that we all, I think, in some way or another, and at some time or another, really experienced. And so our first wall is focused kind of on the beginning of what 2020 was like. So we have a couple of pieces that are really about peace and about innocence. They feature children. The second piece is by Malandala Zulu. The third piece is by Randall Walters. And so those pieces are both just the piece I think that we started with when we entered 2020, and we didn't really know what was going on. It wasn't until, and it's ironic that we're at exactly a year, but I feel like, this time last year, we were kind of, you were hearing a little bit of buzzing about the virus, but we didn't really know what to expect. And so as things began to change right around this time, I remember like going to the grocery store the first time. And so then we get to a piece by Ozma Page, which features the Statue of Liberty with a mask. And so, this was kind of the beginning of us having to wear the masks and wear the masks all the time. And so I think that in the beginning, there was a lot of fear and uncertainty. And I think we were all kind of trying to figure out what our isolation looked like. And so the pieces on this wall are reflective of people trying to find a sense of peace in their isolation. So these first 2 pieces are by artist Joy Nutt, and I love them because they're very textile based and they're solitary figures. I love the brightness of color, and Joy Nutt started her art business and really launched and kicked off her art business during the time that she had from the corona. And so I love the importance of her work. These are by Janai Macklin. And so she's from a family of artists. Her father is a really well-known artist in the district as well. And so I felt like both of these pieces were important because, one on the right, we have a self-portrait. And so again, examining thoughts of isolation, but then we also have the little girl braiding the grandma's hair. And I think one thing that a lot of us experienced, if you did not have live-in grandparents, is, these could be the last years of your grandparents' lives. And even if they were not sick or did not suffer with the COVID, just thinking about like they're missing this year with their children. I haven't seen my father in a year. My kids haven't seen him in a year. And so it makes these moments that they get to spend that much more precious. And so I thought it was a really important piece to include. These 3 on this wall are by Zalika Perkins, and these are pieces where she is exploring her healing in the solitude. And so she uses a lot of plants, and I think that I saw an article on Instagram about how a lot of people, particularly millennials and Generation Z, really went towards plant care as a way to address their mental health during the isolation of the pandemic. A lot of people started to really get into purchasing plants. And so I really like how these pieces address that. And so, I think a lot of us up until May, we're thinking a lot about how to survive the isolation. We had no idea what was going to come next. And so, I have this final piece that's kind of a searching piece by Jamise Winston called Hope. And then we get to some words that were in the artist statement of Rashada Pulanjira, who's one of the artists in the show, and her work is coming up a little bit later. But she said something that I thought was very important and that I wanted to share, because this is something that we as Black people say to each other all of the time, and is a well-known comment of when we say what we called out Black and what it means to call out Black. And I think a lot of other cultures may not really understand. And I thought that this was such a great definition of what that is, because as we're going through the social unrest, it's really difficult to continue to like go to work and have people ask you questions. You're going to work, you're trying to fill your regular Tuesday, and everybody's like, are you all right? And what's going on? And so her comments, I called out Black. I refused to attend any meetings. I refused to smile while my heart was breaking over the death of George Floyd. I didn't have the capacity to go numb anymore. And I think a lot of us felt that. It was overwhelming enough to already be dealing with the pandemic, but then on top of that, just the violence and what the violence really meant to us and what it made us feel. And so, you know, here's a piece by Jamise Winston called "Is Justice for All" that I think really sums up a lot of how we felt. This wall here has a series of images. If you could mute yourself whenever you are. This here is our Black Arts or Black Lives Matter Plaza kind of walkthrough. And co-host, can you mute whoever that is? I put these pieces here and I put them in a row because I really wanted us to be thinking about what the experience is when you go down Black Lives Matter Plaza, and it really addresses what some of the social unrest and social issues were. And so I'm going to swing around here so that we can get a look. And once again, I'm going to go through these pieces one by one because some of these are smaller pieces. And I want you guys to be able to see all of them. And so we have by Daniel Hawkins, "COVID Be Gone." These are her digital pieces. Okay, she's got another piece about the marches and the Black Lives Matter marches. And then hold on, I'm trying to get us to see beyond this walkway pole, but you guys might have to bear with me until I come back so you can see them close. We have these three really beautiful photos by Adia Harris. The first are Say My Name. And, you know, Say My Name is the hashtag that's used associated with the women who we have lost to police violence as well, who are often unsung heroes and who are often unheard. And she has another piece that is a photograph of a memorial. And then we follow that up with a piece from Asma Page, which is the fist holding up Africa. And then we have Flanora Merritt, who I learned from the last reception is actually an alumni of Friendship Charter Schools. And so it's really amazing, you know, that we're looking at a school system that they took a student and brought this student through their system, and then, you know, she went to college and she came back to her community to give back, and even when schools closed was still giving back, going out and highlighting through photography the experiences of her community. And then we finally end that with a piece from Judy Williams about the election night and chronicling what her experiences were and things she saw during the election night. And so again, we'll come back to those so that we can see all of them independently and in great detail because they're on this small wall. And hold on, my computer is acting up. Give me just a second so that we can turn it around. See, we didn't have any glitches or issues for the opening, so I figured we would get all of the glitches today and get them out for you guys. All right, so now we are looking at our top wall, which features work by Carol Solinger. So she has two pieces that are in color pencil about finding peace in nature and finding peace with loved ones. And then she has a piece which is a print, and that print is called Alan and the Girls, and it is next to our first sculpture, and that sculpture is by Judy Williams. And what I love about this sculpture, and we'll get to see it closer when we come back around, is that it features all names from people who were lost during because of police brutality. And so it's a really beautiful piece and a really haunting piece. And, you know, we'll get a close-up in just a few minutes. And so then we're going to continue. On this wall, we have an amazing piece by Randy Holloway. And I really like this piece because I feel like it's kind of like a vortex that we all were kind of experiencing, and all of us were kind of trying to figure out, like, you know, which loved ones do we cling to? How are we going to get through this? I feel like the hand in the center is like kind of beckoning us to reach through to the other side. And I thought that it was just a really beautiful and really moving piece to remind us that one of my favorite sayings is the only way that you can go is through. And 2020 was really one of those times that the only way you could go was through. This is a piece, it's a sculpture by Rhonda Silver. It's called Waiting, and I absolutely love this piece. It's a three-piece sculpture. It's we had to it's plaster. So when we did the photographs, like we had to carry it in and set it up, and it's a 3D piece. It's really meant for you to be able to walk around the entire piece, and you can see like in the front face it's empty, and so it really gives a haunting spirit of what we all felt when we were kind of waiting to try to figure out what was going on, and what change was coming to our lives. On this wall here we have artwork by James Terrell. And on these pieces, James really worked a lot on the mental health aspects of what was going on for a lot of people in 2020. And so, you can see some of that from his figures. And we have our first words from Bomani Armah, which is the heightened racism and devastation to small business was something I was planning to teach my sons to be prepared for in their lifetime, not before they turn 16. The inevitable cycle of American life is on max speed right now. And I think that that's such an important sentiment as to what 2020 really did for us and really did to us. You saw the closure of a lot of small businesses. You saw the closure of a lot of really big businesses that I think at times it was a little bit shocking to see some of these businesses that didn't make it. And still, it's shocking to me when I'm on like U Street and I'm looking at what businesses are left and what things are open. And when I'm going down H Street and I'm looking at what businesses are left, and this is something I hear reflected in all kinds of cities around me. And so these pieces are by Rashadin Pullen Jaira. And I love her pieces because I felt like they gave a sense of hope. I thought that, the beginning of the summer was just really devastating and devastating in a lot of ways, just watching businesses burn. But I think that there were a lot of us who were still just quarantining and kind of watching all of this from afar. And so I thought that her pieces kind of brought us back to like, this is still simultaneously happening. And then we have our second set of words from Bomani Armah from one of his poems. I've spent my days creating things to reminisce and harboring memories to feed me when my body becomes a doomsday bunker. Because I think a lot of last year was spent hoping that you or one of your loved ones wasn't going to die. And, as harsh as that is, that's really what a lot of it felt like, and trying to figure out, how to stay focused and how to stay strong. This wall, I call it the harsh wall because this wall, I really wanted to dig into the emotions of the social unrest. And so we start with Randy Walters' My Son, My Pain. And just this piece was inspired, of course, by what happened to George Floyd, and not just George Floyd, but to many other people. Then we have a piece by Janai Macklin about, wanting to fight back and thinking about, what is revolution and who is revolutionary. We have this piece by Melandela Zulu about, it's called Unity. And so, I think one thing I did see people really starting to get together across races and across socioeconomic backgrounds. We also have this piece by Elizabeth Stewart, which at the time was untitled, but I think is a piece very much about emerging. And we'll go back to that one and get to see it closely as well. We have a mixed media piece here by Carol Solinger. It is a Raya rug and something that she does to kind of help pass the time, and that's very therapeutic for her. And I thought it was important to include that texture and include that activity. We also have Donald Hints by Patricia Smith. And so he is, of course, the chairman of the Friendship Public Schools. And, his thoughts on the importance of friendship and of unity and of the schools is really, really an important theme. And then we have another piece by Elizabeth Stewart called The Procession, which I thought was a very spiritual piece that really moved me and made me think about the ways that people are growing and going through it. We have this piece by Rhonda Silver, and it is 30 individual pieces that are all put together. And I thought that they're all hearts and different emotions that the heart experiences called conditions. And so I thought they were really, really beautiful and really timely, because this is a time when we're reconnecting to all of our emotions and finally, we have this piece by Tiffany Chamberlain, which I wanted to return to the theme of us kind of relaxing into what it is to continue to quarantine and what it is to figure out what is life after Trump, what is life after the coronavirus, what is life after what happened last summer, what happens next for us. And so that is the show. And now I want to go back really quickly and give us an opportunity to go through each piece so that we can see them up close, particularly the smaller ones that were on the wall. So here we have Drew's words. We have a piece called Innocence by Melindela Zulu. This is Randy Walters' Sunshine. And, you know, you really get a sense of just the innocence that we started out the year with. We're not missing you. Asma Page's Queen Liberty. And, you know, another thing I love about this piece is that the Statue of Liberty is holding a baby, because a lot of us were going through these changes with our children, and our educators were going through these changes while dealing with our children. And, you know, so I think that's such an important piece to add. Jamise Winston's pieces are they're acrylic, but they're 3D. They have a texture to them that the pictures really don't do justice. When I saw the pictures in person, they were just absolutely beautiful and had so much texture and so much that you could see. I mean, you in this one, you can kind of see it around like the eyebrows and somewhat in the mask, but there's so much texture and beauty to these pieces. We are going to Joy Nuts pieces. And so here you can really articulate the line work that she's added to the skin and to the clothing of these pieces. And I loved the brightness of the backgrounds and how it allowed the features and the skin tones of the figures to stand out. These pieces by Janai were pencil on paper. And so, you know, you can really see the intricacy and her care for detail in both of them. I think that they were absolutely beautiful. And then they just flowed so well into the work that Zalika did. You know, like Zalika's pieces really, she talked a lot about finding herself and healing herself, and you can really see that reflected in the work. You know, it's definitely introspective work, and I think that we saw that from a lot of our teachers, like the desire to get introspective and to really dig into who they are and what they're experiencing, and perhaps even how they plan to move differently going forward in their art and in their personal lives. This is The Shining by James Terrell, addressing what it's like to kind of be stuck inside the house. I think we all felt like we were each one of these heads at some point. This piece is called Discombobulation, and it addresses some of the mental health issues that are caused by when you're constantly indoors and you're not allowed to connect with people you love. This is called We the People and is based on some of the people who were on the front lines who were protesting, and even some people who were not able to. And then we have the words of Bomani Armah. We're at the pieces by Carol Solinger. So this is about finding comfort in nature. And then her second piece, which is finding comfort in loved ones. And you can see that she's, you know, with her puppy there. And then Alex and the girls, he's got his puppies as well. And you can see the plants. And I really love the line work and was glad that we were able to get a linoleum block print for this show. Like there's a number of different mediums that are used. Here we are with Judy Williams. And so as you look into the background, you can see the names. You know, you can see Sandra Bland and Freddie Gray and many other names. And you can see how much information and how many people we have really lost wrapped into these figures. It's really a beautiful and haunting memorial piece. We'll go up to see Rashada Pulanjira's pieces. Boom. So we got Maya and Nikki, you know, so just really thinking about who are the people that we could connect with, and trying to find joy in these moments of not being able to connect with everybody that we may have wanted to, but being able to find love and find positive moments. I love this piece, but who is going to see this fly dress though? Because I super went shopping and wear my clothes around the house and take pictures and put them on Instagram and don't go anywhere. And so I think that was a real reality of 2020. Here are the pieces that are the smaller ones that are on the Black Lives Matter Plaza walkway, as I call it. So this is Danielle Hawkins, and these are digital pieces. This is her first art show, and so I was really excited to be able to present on this type of platform artists who had not shown before, or who had not shown a lot alongside artists who are really seasoned. We have some artists who've been in museums and who have shown work all over the country. And and so to be able to show alongside artists who are showing for their first time, it's an honor, and it's a really beautiful thing to be able to do, to show this mix of people and different levels of their fine art career, but who are all equally talented and equally amazing at what they do. So we'll come back over here to Randy. And so we've got Randy's piece. We've got Rhonda Silvers, and we talked a little bit about her piece. And hopefully tonight we'll have a chance so we can see the back of the piece. Here is Elizabeth Stewart. And then we've got Rhonda's second piece. And then we go to Carol Solinger, Patricia Smith. We go back to Tiffany Chamberlain. I love this piece. It's so big too. And that's one of the things I thought was really amazing about it, was just how much it really spoke to me in terms of how the figure is put together. And if you want to jump onto YouTube, I tell a story about Randy Walters submitting his photo for this piece that you can go in here if you want to watch another version of the tour. I tried to talk about different artists tonight that I didn't get to talk about last time, so that we could get a little bit of information about each artist and each of their works. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our exhibit. So I'm going to let it walk back so you guys can see it as though you were leaving. All right. So it's perfect that we're back at the words of Drew Anderson. Earlier in this event, and for those people who have just joined us, I talked about how important the spoken word was. And I talked a little bit about the contributions of our two spoken word artists in the show, Drew Anderson and Bomani Armah. Both have independent contract arts education programs that they travel from school to school, or even right now doing Zoom and doing different meetings from school to school, that they host, and that they engage our young people in how to write and how to talk about their history. And I think that it's such an important art form, and so important to be highlighted alongside the visual arts. And, as educators, I think a lot of us take different paths as educators. And I thought it was really important for us to highlight some of the programs that come into our schools, and some of the programs that give our young people an opportunity to release what their actual experiences are, that also highlight actual academics. And so if you follow us on Instagram, we had a video up from the What It Is show, which is hosted by Drew Anderson, where he was talking to Bomani Armah about the importance of being a teaching artist. And so follow us at DC Teacher Art Show on Instagram, and you can see that video. It's a 1-minute clip, and Bomani gives an absolutely amazing answer. But he gives this amazing answer because he is being talked to by an absolutely amazing host. And so this is one of my favorite entertainers. He's funny. He's talented in a multitude of ways, and I am honored and excited to have him here today. He is going to host the rest of the night because I'm sure that you guys are tired of hearing me talk for the second night in a row. And it's nice to get some masculine energy in here and get some entertainment going. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome back up to our, it's like an open mic, the distance learning open mic. Welcome up our host for the next half of the show, Drew Anderson.
Lions and Tigers and Bears, oh my. Congratulations to you folks of discriminating tastes who knew to be here for the DC Teacher Arts Show, for our Distance Learning Showcase, and many congratulations to Sutheka and Zenga Terrell for not only making moves on her own behalf as an artist and a curator, but also bringing educators, artists, teaching artists to the fold to share their process around making art during a pandemic. As she said, it's historic stuff. These are things that people years from now, they're going to say, just like they say, where were you for 9/11? They're going to say, how did you get through 2020? And even as we saw with the previous presidency, how art is often the first thing to be defunded. It's interesting how it's the first thing we go to when we need solace, when we need support, when we need understanding of what really is important. When we face existential crises, art is where we go. And I want to thank the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities for, number one, supporting this project, but also supporting me throughout my career as an artist in DC in different ways. And so I'm excited to do something I love doing, which is host an open mic, so to speak. You all saw images and you saw words, and now you will hear words that speak to the energy and ideas of this finely curated exhibit. And so I want to verify first that my planned artists are all present. Do we have Carol Seifert in the house?
Hi.
All right, cool. We got Carol Seifert. We got Tammarrah, and I'm hoping I'm saying her name right. She gave me a little tutorial, but Tammarrah, yeah. The tutorial was through chat, because, so I had to guess. Tammarrah is in the house, all right? And consulting my list here, if you'll pardon me, we then will have Khadijah Zakia.
Khadijah Moon is in the house.
Khadijah Moon's in the building, right on. And then we're going to close out with my guy, Bomani Armah, all right? So with that said, Lions and Tigers and Bears, oh my, that is the way I like to introduce my shows that spit that. That is a call of the wild, so to speak. It's something I lifted from Wizard of Oz, but the way we use it, it's how we center the energy and just make sure that we're all pointing that energy in the same place. All right. When we bring up an artist, we bring them up with all the love as if they are your favorite artist, because if they are your favorite artist, then give the love due. If they aren't your favorite artist, how can they grow to become your favorite artist if they are not encouraged? So we want to give all of this DC Teacher Art Show distance learning love to the one known as Carol Seifert, educator, grant writer, if I'm not mistaken, and singer. So please give it up for Carol Seifert, y'all.
Hi. I'm gonna sing for you a song called Twin Pandemic Blues, which is in recognition of COVID-19 and police brutality. So here we go. COVID made us all shut it down. Social distancing, a new way of living. We wore face masks and closed our schools, followed all the rules, had too much to lose. Pandemic didn't need to be so bad. So many thousands gone, the vaccine took too long. Floyd's murder shocked us to the core. Pandemic be damned, can't take it no more. Tempers flared with the video. We all saw the need. Floyd, one of many. Demonstrations swept the whole country. Killings got to stop. Work on it till we drop. Twin pandemics all around us now, problems everywhere. Is there a way out of here? Washington painted 16th Street, yellow tall letters say Black Lives Matter. Major reckoning has begun. Look how far we've come. Such a long way from done. Thank you.
Yes, give it up. Thank you, Carol, for your inspiring, enlightening words. And as we say, art is how we get through our challenges and our adversity. And that song, I think, spoke so clearly and dearly to that sentiment. So thank you, Carol. All right. So coming up next on our open mic list, or should I say our closed mic list? I was just schooled on how to pronounce the name, so I hope I show that I've been a good student, but I hope that we may all prove to be good students from the words and ideas that are about to be shared from Tammarrah. All right. And so please give it up for Tammarrah.
You're so funny, Tammarrah. All right. My first piece is called Everything You Have Is Us. Before we became strange fruits, bodies swinging from the poplar trees, we bear the fruit, giving you everything you see. So where should I start? I'm here giving you the Black man's burden and how you tried to take his heart. Got the diamonds and gold. This all started from the auction where we were sold, from our own people to you. And you know what I'm saying is a fact, is it not true? So let's talk about how everything you have is us. Coming from the ships, down on bended knees, picking your cotton. Have you forgotten? Years later, you still see it materialized. It was the brown and Black bodies that was traumatized, disenfranchised, as you prophesied how you were superior. It was the hands of my ancestors that built this interior. Even the house that the most powerful man lives. Every time you were taking, we as a people were told to give you capital. But you stormed in saying it was yours. Not respecting the codes of power, tradition. You have been charged with sedition. You are trumped, deceitful, and trying to be so tough. But everything you have is us. Our sweat, bodies, and talents. And for some, you even bought their silence so you can continue your Mongolian mentality, taking things that is not yours so you can be seen as a great fallacy. But I guess we were supposed to be apologetic. When you check our aesthetics as a reason to have your knees on our necks, you better give a Birdman and put some respect on it, because everything you have is us. Therefore, must we remind you that when you look inside of America, you see me. You can never claim it all. Your failure to see this melanin as your equal will continue to be your downfall. We have always been valuable, a remedy for your sorrows that could not be healed. You made our ancestors your genie in a bottle, making you and your lineage greatest desires real. We are the creators, nurturers, designers, builders, workers who made it possible for you easy because we had it rough. So let's not forget that everything you have is us.
Outstanding, brilliant, timely. Tammarrah Addison, Virginia educator, we appreciate your well put words, and they fit so well into this exhibit, the DC Teacher Art Show, as we close out the distance learning exhibit. And so it's a celebration, and we're happy to celebrate with you all. So our next artist, I may not need to introduce, you may have seen her around, but Khadijah Moon is an eclectic blend of soul, rock, spoken word, funk, and jazz. She crafts artful stories through song with powerful lyrics and brilliant arrangements. With a 3-octave vocal range, Khadijah Moon is inspired by lush musical landscapes that fuse musical flavors in creative ways. And so we're about to see all about and experience those creative ways we bring to the stage. Khadijah Moon. Give it up, y'all. Show some love.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to sing tonight. I'm going to actually present a spoken word piece. And if I have time for a second one, it'll follow. It's called This Poem. To all the singers who think they're the only ones who can sing, call themselves the next big thing, who think their new single is the hottest, that they are the next R&B god or goddess, that can't write a song but always demonstrating vibrato, confused, screaming with emoting and call random things legato. This poem is not about you. To all the over 30-year-olds still trying to get your rap deal, focused on lyrics that brag about your sex appeal, still debating folks about the greatest of all time, still referring to women as wifey and dimes, this poem is not about you. This poem is for the teachers I know who use music to teach and groom minds that thrive on creativity, cultivating an engaged classroom, connecting rhythm to Shakespeare and Tupac to Poe. This poem is for the artists who are teachers, the people I know. This poem is for the mamas I know who write melodies with babies on their hips, planting artistic seeds through kisses and fingertips, naming their sons after songs, writing poems about their baby girls, creating music concerts in their living rooms, architects of their own personal worlds. Mamas who market their wares with their young ones by their side. This poem is for my artist mamas who fill my soul with pride. This poem is for the daddies working a day job, maybe two, comes home and plays with the kids. His family is his crew, is the producer of a music project that he worked on for a friend, didn't get paid for the track, but got producer's credit, and he'd do it for that friend again. For that dynamic daddy who is an artist, working for the man to feed his tribe, where the home front with his family and his studio with his music is where he feels most alive. This poem is for my arts family, my culture collective, my kindred spirits, my creativity tribe. This poem is for the music makers, the poets, always lifting up the vibe. This poem is for the day job workers, homeschooling mamas, freelance hustlers, balancing their art with their commitment to their families and their soul. This poem is a reclaiming, a spiritual blessing of the spirits, young and old, who collectively maintain our culture, don't give in to the highest bidder, aren't in it to hand over to culture vultures or proclaim themselves the biggest winner. Those who know that art is a reflection of life, of the truth, of the present, of history. This poem is for the creatives, our world's revolutionaries. Do I have time for a second?
Yes, you do indeed. Please share.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. This is called Activist Prayer. May we continue to breathe fire, siphon ether from the molecular until our cells live beyond the cellular and our energy is times infinity. May we know not the temptation to quit, never halting our predisposition to endlessly want to fix and recreate, stand up, never satiate the powers that seek to destroy the very core of who we are. May we continue to shine like stars, constellations in our concrete prisons, leading minds north to the horizon where the sky's sun is our salvation, and unity is unified without uniformity, casting off the chains of conformity. May we guide with knowledge, pinky fingered linked with compassion, evoking the prayers of our ancestors with agile action, falling back to allow our young ones to share the burden of this beast, telling our stories to ensure the continuation of this work at the very least. May we continue to breathe fire. May we continue to breathe fire. May we continue to be fire, blazing bright to burn down what is unjust. Becoming the flame is a must. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. May your light never extinguish. Thank you.
Outstanding. Yes, I know that we just were inspired by those words. Give it up for Khadijah Moon, who you can find out more about at khadijahmoon.com. You dig? So I'm just honored to be a part of this exhibit, the DC Teacher Art Show. Zudeka, is this closing event representing it actually ending its run? Will people still be able to see it after today?
Well, yes. So we still have one more workshop on Thursday. So for those of you who are scheduled for the workshop on Thursday, we still have that. But our site with the tour will be up through the rest of the year. And I want you guys to make sure that you're subscribing to the website, subscribing to our YouTube, which is Terrell Arts DC Education, because we will be putting out interviews with each of the artists and spoken word artists who are involved in the show to give them an opportunity to share with you more of their work and more information about their practice if you want to follow them, and more information about the schools that they work with as well.
Thank you, Zudeka. So as I do when I host an open mic, I want to do a piece right quick for y'all beautiful folks. And I love the fact that the pieces that I've been able to do tonight are pieces that were written during this pandemic year. And this piece in particular I'm about to do was commissioned for an event called Black Excellence that was put on by my friend Blair Dotton Haley. And he, if you're familiar with the Blairisms, he designs clothes that have a lot of his witty sayings on them and things like that. He has this whole series called the Savage series, where you can get, say, a shirt with, if you listen, congratulations to Megan Thee Stallion. I believe she won at least one Grammy the other night, but she had that song Ratchet, Savage, Class, Bougie, Classy. And so those four ideas, those four energies, it's almost like earth, wind, and fire and water. But these shirts, say, for instance, it might take like Michelle Obama, and it'll have four pictures of her, and one would be the ratchet, one would be the classy, one would be the bougie, one would be the savage. And they started this chat series during the pandemic on Instagram called the Savage Chat Series, where they would interview different people. They interviewed like the mayor of New Orleans, because that's where we're both from, Blair and I. They interviewed just different people, different cultural savages, people who found ways to revolutionize their art form, whether it was pre-pandemic or during the pandemic. And so he had an event called Black Excellence, and I wrote a poem called Black Excellence for that event, and I think it fits the energy here, so I will be performing it. We be Black Excellent, savages in command of this. Think Blairisms for the fashion sense. So classy will leave your class dismissed. So bougie give you our hand to kiss, but get smacked with it on some ratchetness. We're not saying no other culture is hidden, but Black excellence just hits different. African descendants basking in the privilege of melanin mixed in our DNA double helix. They say to reach for the stars, but stars we are. So we breach the upper when we reach for one another. We pull up while we climb. Sankofa is the design, reaching back to the past with the future on our mind. We savages Megan Thee Stallion. So stay in your lanes if you be repping the whackness, because you could get body yaddy yaddy when that WAP hit. Women are powerful. Well, what do you think it stood for? Good Lord. We savages, just like Erica Alexander is, living single to the max while Kyle tries to tap for tit. We classy as Sinclair and bougie as Regine, but the flavor we bring to be makes us ratchet as Miss Khadijah. Or should I say Queen Latifah, because we ratchet as Cleo, but bougie as TT though. Yet savage as Frankie, yo, and stone cold classy when there's green on the table. But when that green turns to red, we set it off. Don't get entangled. We savages, Kamala Harris, ratchet enough to leave in competition embarrassed, but classy enough to share in this. Just biding our time until our bougie raise pinkies, wear pink and green, and our swearing in. Black people, we love you. I'm rooting for everybody black, unstoppable every time we attack. This be the Black excellence that Team Dot and Haley promised. See that dot in the sky? It's Haley's comet. We got this. And now, without further ado, I'd like to bring to you my friend and compatriot who I did have the honor and pleasure of interviewing on What It Is, the show, who I also featured Zudeka and Zenka herself. And it was a memorable show, and I look forward to us doing more with it. But Baba Bomani of BabaGotBars.com, aka the Watermelon Man, has been using hip hop, poetry, and multimedia disciplines to teach fun and informative workshops with all ages, from kindergarten to graduate students, for well over 15 years. And at BabaGotBars.com, you can find his hip hop music for kids, as well as teaching materials showing students the writing process through hip hop. You got to see a taste of his work in this very DC teaching arts show exhibit. And now we will hear it live from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So give it up for my man and yours, Baba Bomani Armah. Bo, we can't quite hear you right now.
Shoot, There we go. All right, that's something I've been getting used to doing since I'm doing all this virtual stuff. Here we go. I do everything like a hip hop concert. So here's what I need. When I count to 3, I need everyone to say peace and throw up the deuces like this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Peace.
All right, cool. So one of the things I've learned doing this online is that it's best to do your performances as asynchronous is what they're calling it. So I'm about to play a video for you. I do a whole bunch of educational stuff. Check me out, babagotbars.com. But since I got a room full of adults, I'm gonna play some of my Bomani Armah music. Actually, this music is me as the Watermelon Man. So I hope you enjoy this. This first piece I'm gonna play for you is called Libation, and it's just gonna play from there. Here we go. The afterlife is speculation, from heaven to hell to reincarnation. When I realized we are one organism, that led to my decision to make people my religion. To be an ancestor honored in remembrance, because the seeds I planted are harvested by descendants, helping generations I won't see. That's a miracle. Nothing in this world could be more spiritual, because heaven exists in the mind of the living. It's where you'll be if you're kind and giving. To put our ancestors in that final destination, we are here to pour libation. Pour it out. Alright, y'all. In places around the world, it's customary to pour out libation or to say a prayer for those who came before you, your ancestors. We're about to do that right now. Remember, energy does not die. Check it, we'll never forget, so never fear. For homies who ain't here, we pouring out a beer. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because of you, it'll never be the same. We keep saying your name while we pour champagne. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for the mothers and the father figures, your flames and flickers, we pouring out some liquor. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Check it, we're the sons and the daughters of heroes and martyrs, honor you by pouring out some water. Yeah, check it out, y'all. Energy doesn't die, it transforms. Heaven exists in the mind of the living. It's where you'll be if you're kind and giving. To put our ancestors in that final destination, we are here to pour libation. We'll never forget, so never fear. For homies who ain't here, we pouring out a beer. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because of you, it'll never be the same. We keep saying your name while we pour champagne. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Check it, for the mothers and the father figures, your flames and flickers, we pouring out some liquor. Yeah, check it, yeah. We're the sons and the daughters of heroes and martyrs, honor you by pouring out some water. Yeah, check it out, y'all. Energy doesn't die, it transforms. Heaven exists in the mind of the living. It's where you'll be if you're kind and giving. To put our ancestors in that final destination, we're here to pour libation. Pour it out. This is how it works. Ancestors aren't buried in the dirt. It's not metaphor, it's not simile. I'm talking spiritually to scientifically, I mean literally. They're in our DNA, they're alive in the things that we do and say. Lessons they taught and examples they gave. Last lesson when they are buried in their grave. So I try to understand and remember them. Learn from their lives, I know I can depend on them. From when the light turned on to when it fades to black. Our lifespan shorter than a finger, and that's time I'll never give back. So I use that time to keep the circle intact. Death will feel like before you were born. Energy doesn't die, it transforms. Heaven exists in the mind of the living. It's where you'll be if you're kind and giving. To put our ancestors in that final destination, we're here to pour. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, y'all, we're about to get real African in here. Here's what I need you to do. Close your eyes and think of an ancestor for a moment, or a family member or a friend who was here with us and is now gone. We're gonna call on them in a moment, all right? Now, here's what I need you to do. You can open your eyes. I'm gonna need you to say this with me. 1, 2, say this with me. Ashe, say that with me. Ashe, keep that going. Ashe, yeah, you got it. Ashe, now, say the names of your loved ones, of your ancestors, of the people who've gone on before you. Lee Hancock, Alvin Jones, Calvin Jones, John Jones. Yeah. I don't get to choose how I die. I know this. The cycle takes no note of my feelings, my hopes and dreams, my wants and wishes. But COVID deaths are what nightmares are made of. A failing husk of a body becomes a solitary confinement cell. I want to hold my wife's hand and look into my children's eyes when I die. COVID has you holding on to their memories through the fog of pain and medication, through breaths you steal back from death one at a time. I've decided to make fresh memories so new recollection can hold my hand if I ever get intubated. Painting and dancing with my daughter, jamming or training with my sons, making love to my wife as often as possible. I don't want to reach back into the recesses of my mind. I've spent my days creating things to reminisce and harboring memories to feed me when my body becomes a doomsday bunker. Yeah. All right, that was kind of heavy. I wrote that one. Actually, I put that one together for Zudeka when she asked me about it. This distance learning project was a brilliant idea. I'm really thankful to be a part of this. Thank you, Zudeka. Thank you, Terrell Arts. Thank you to everyone who was a part of this. Thank y'all for continuing to make artwork, for continuing to make me feel at home and comfortable. This next song I'm about to do is on my album called The Watermelon Man. It got pushed back because last year was last year, right? But this whole idea, the concept of the album, in particular this song, is about being comfortable and at home. And so that's what I'm gonna hit y'all with right now. This next piece is called My Favorite Place to Be. We're gonna have some fun with it. Yeah. 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 Gotta let the beat ride for a minute. Let y'all feel this. You have a place that makes you feel real comfortable? Alright, this is that place for me. Spirit down, soul drained, eyes tired and blurry. Come home dressed in a day's worth of anxiety and worry. Heartbeat racing, mind is in a hurry. Turn the key, open the door, and the house smells like curry. Hits me like the sun when I'm standing on Eastern Shore, embracing a new day and the love that it has in store. No worry about the outside battles and wars, making sweet sounds on this night shift. I'm your Commodore. Her body, a brick house, her eyes, a villa. Coffee cream complected, while blacker than vanilla. Brown liquor already poured, she bumping J Dilla. This must be what it feels like when we're chilling in Anguilla. Got me higher than the peak of Mount Kilimanjaro. I said, can I be the Diego to your Frida Kahlo? She said, I got you, babe, like Cher said to Sonny Bono. As long as you hold me until today turns to tomorrow. Yeah. Check it. Watch me make it easy to see just exactly why she's my favorite place to be. Yeah, watch me make it easy to see just exactly why she's my favorite place to be. When I'm not hustling, you know where you can find me. Where it feels familiar like Mary J's, you remind me. Like you street in the 90s, I ain't looking over my shoulder, I know who's behind me. She's where I belong, no matter what vibe we on. Make love like honeymoon sweets, make plans like the Pentagon. Put sugar in a bowl like she's Nina Simone, like that Luther song. Without her, this house is not a home. But right now, it's a chateau off the Ivory Coast, or the shores of Lake Nyanza, dipping more than my toes. Or when I'm in the band of the church, catch the Holy Ghost. Or when I'm barefoot with one mic at my show. My favorite place to be in, African or European, Asian or Australian, Latin American or Caribbean, whatever state that she in, Hawaiian or Floridian, her presence is a higher state of being. Yeah, watch me make it easy to see just exactly why she's my favorite place to be. Yeah, I hope y'all feeling this. Yeah, watch me make it easy to see just exactly why she's my favorite place to be. Yeah. Distance learning, Terrell Arts, Bomani Armah, The Watermelon Man. Find me at notarapper.com. Thank y'all for making me feel comfortable. Thank you, Vanessa, for making me feel comfortable. I appreciate y'all. I'ma let this ride out. Yeah.
Bomani Armah, BabaGotBars.com. I didn't want to cut you off if you
Nope, that was good. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Right on. Baba Bomani Armah, we enjoyed seeing your artistry, just the words alone, as part of the exhibit, the DC Teacher Arts Show and Distance Learning. But now it's full circle is to hear the words and hear your melodies and your self-produced music rocked out just now. And for those who missed it, I'm grateful for them that I'm presuming just like the opening ceremonies, this will be on YouTube where they can appreciate it later. Right on. So with that, we now go to the Q&A because I'm sure that you all have some questions. I do, for the teachers who were involved in the exhibit. And so I want to start with well, I can't say the other half because it's a family business. So there are multiple parts to Terrell Arts, but the daddy, you dig, and husband, and you've seen some of his brilliant artwork in this exhibit as well. I have a question for Mr. James Terrell. All right, so if we can unmute the good gentleman and we can talk right quick. My question for James is, what's going on, James?
Hey man, how you been doing?
I'm making it work. I really can't complain.
You know, I got my first start doing music on your show.
Let's fit that.
Way back.
Wow. Blast from the past, in full circle and appropriate.
Yeah.
Terrell, I want you to talk about the meaning of your work and mental health in your art as it relates to 2020. I'm going to repeat the question. Talk to us about the meaning of your work and mental health in your art as it relates to 2020.
Okay, cool. So when I did the pieces on my show, hold on James, 1 second. Sorry about that. So when I first started these pieces, it was on the cusp of the epidemic or pandemic. And the whole aspect was that I'm used to going to work every day, 9 to 5. I leave in the morning at 6. I get home about 6 at night. And when the pandemic hit and the school shut down, I was at home 24/7, which meant I saw my kids every day, all day, while teaching classes. And so the first painting I did was called The Shining. If you saw the movie The Shining, the dude went crazy because he was hacking down doors. It was because of the fact that I had never seen my kids all day, every day, nonstop. And so the first piece that I did was called The Shining. It fused all the images together because we were all in one space all the time, every day, all day. And I had to come to grips with the fact that times had changed and that I was watching my kids grow up every day, all day, which I loved, but it took me time to realize how much that took. And that took a lot of preparation. It took a lot of understanding. I understood a lot about what my wife was going through, dealing with them, homeschooling them all day, every day. And so I had to readjust my whole being. And I finally came to grips and understood what that really took. And I appreciated it after a while, but it took time to readjust myself.
Understood. Right on. Yeah. As someone who has worked with kids of many different ages, I can certainly understand how that can, and as someone who's a fan of The Shining, I can get the metaphor.
Well, I guess really quick also, because we had our child had just turned 2, one child had just turned 3, and then one child was 8. So it was like all different ages at all at one time, nonstop, every day, all day, while teaching classes virtually.
So suffice to say, it brought y'all closer for better or but the fact that y'all are able to conceive and curate this exhibit in the midst of everything that was going on is extremely compelling, powerful, necessary, and we're grateful for it. So thank you, James. Thank you to the whole Terrell Arts family. Word. So my next question is for Melandela Zulu. And please excuse me if I mispronounce your name, but Melandela Zulu, if we can, if they are present, and if so, if they can be unmuted. Zudika, is Melandela Zulu around to receive?
Like he may have dropped from the room.
Cool. Fair enough, no problem. I see that Rhonda Silver is here. And I had a question for Rhonda Silver, so if we could unmute them.
Mommy.
Hello.
Hi,
Good
Rhonda.
Good evening.
Rhonda, I
Yes.
believe in the exhibit you had a sculpture that we were only able to see part of. And I wondered if you could show us the rest of your sculpture, if that's cool.
Oh. Did you have the pictures, Z?
I do have the pictures. If you give me just a second,
I'll take your time because I was like, oh, I didn't know you were gonna.
And you can talk, tell us, for those people who weren't here before, about how the piece is to be viewed while I pull up the pictures.
Okay, so the sculpture called Waiting, you approach it from the back. If you could imagine going into a space, say a room as like a small gallery, and there's a window in it, and the only available lighting would be in the window, okay? And you see this figure in the corner, somewhat catacornered, and you're walking, and you actually approach it. The front is actually the back of the piece, okay? So, and I believe there is a back piece to it as well that you'll be able to see. And so our own curiosity gets the best of us. So my question is, I'm gonna say it's a very interactive piece. I don't usually when people ask me about it, I just tell them to go and experience it. So you have to experience. Do you have the back side of it as well? Do you have the back piece by chance? I can't hear you, Day. I can't hear you. You gotta unmute yourself, Day. Okay, so, and as you walk around to the front of it, like I said, the view is usually, they stop, they look, and this has just been reactions that I've seen because I actually observed the viewer. So the viewer walks into the space, sees it from the back, and sometimes our natural curiosity makes us want to walk around it because it is a sculpture and it's also life size. So when you walk around it toward the front, it's hollow. And so people have several different types of reactions to it. They're either afraid, and usually it seems people are more haunted by this piece because, of course, when we see a piece draped, it's like we think about death, okay? But also this piece it's like how you look at life. The glass can be half empty or half full. So just imagine the flip side of it is like a butterfly. This could be a transforming piece because when a butterfly is a caterpillar and it goes through its transformation, the cocoon is left behind. And so it's nothing there as well. So it all depends on how people view it. But because it is a solemn piece, but when I was actually designing it, it was a form of actually transforming. It was
a transformation more so. And so actually, and at the time when I did that piece, it didn't have locks. Okay, what's wrapped around the body are those are locks. And they can be, and actually, yeah, they can be interpreted as, I say as the view, whatever the viewer thinks. It's really a interactive piece. It's open for interpretation. And there's no right, there's no wrong, approach to it. But it's really, I meant for it to be mostly, I'm gonna say, interactive with the viewer. So it's really a piece that you see. It's better, of course, to see it in person. It's better because it has a lot of texture. It's done with, it's a mixed medium piece. It's done with plaster. Oh, it says, so. Okay. It's made with plaster. I actually had to build the spine. I don't use, it's made with plaster and gauze. And I built the spine out of actual plaster. The part with the locks, those are made of, with gauze, sorry. Those are actually made with gauze, I'm sorry. Those were made with, oh gosh, now I can't get it out. They were made with plaster of Paris gauze, the kind when you get a cast, that type of gauze. Okay. So did I answer your question?
You did indeed. Thank you. Can we make sure can co-host whoever is
Did you guys see the images? I'm sorry, I'm wrestling with my little one.
Yeah, they did.
All three of them? Did you guys see all three images?
I believe we saw two.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure.
Thank you, though.
I believe we saw side. If I'm not mistaken, Rhonda.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I believe we saw
I'm about to mute. Oh, wait,
Okay.
Sorry, wrong person.
Okay, that's okay. Would you say, repeat the question?
Okay, so hold on, I'm gonna try to reshare them. I'm sorry, my daughter popped down here and she is in my lap. So give me just a second. Let me.
What did you say, Andrew? I mean, Drew?
Yeah, I believe we saw the side and the back, but not necessarily the front.
Right. I don't think they took a shot of the front.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know if the photographer did. I'm not sure.
But I know if it's
No, he did not. He didn't get a good picture of the front. So if you have one handy that you want to share with us, that's absolutely fine.
I don't have one on this computer. This is my work computer that I'm on.
But it's an absolutely beautiful piece, you guys. Like, I really wish that you could have seen it in person.
Thank you.
And what interested me in particular was, Rhonda, when you said how you watch the watchers. So it's like a feedback loop, right? You create, as an artist, you produce, and then people engage with it. And you watch them, their feelings and reactions might inspire more art from you, than bringing more viewers so you get to watch. And I think that you all are the visual artists, but I would imagine that that's an interesting part of your process.
Yes, yes. And I also, on a sidebar, I have writings of my work, but I haven't read them yet. About some of the work that I produce, I have I said I was gonna get up at Busboys and Poets and do a spoken word piece, but I haven't had totally the heart yet, so. I can't hear you, Drew. You're on mute.
Well, thank you so much, Rhonda, for sharing and for contributing your brilliant and beautiful piece to the
thank you.
art show and to the distance learning experience. So I see that we have Flanora Merritt in the house, and I wonder if Flanora would mind unmuting, or if our co-hosts can unmute Flanora Merritt so that I may ask a question. Hi, Flanora.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I wanted to ask you, what was it like being invited to this show, and what is your work inspired by? So I'll repeat the question for everyone's benefit. What was it like being invited to this show, and what is your work inspired by?
Being invited to the show was a very surreal experience because when I originally started photography, I did it for the benefit of my students. I work for Friendship News Network, and we're a journalism program. So in the beginning, we mostly focused on writing, but as my program grew, there were like requests to I really want to learn photography, and we never could, find someone to come in and teach. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just teach myself and then I'll pass along my knowledge to my students. So I never expected for myself to be featured in a gallery. So yeah, this is super exciting for me. What I'm inspired by is just the people in general. I always tell my students that there's always a story out there. People have some amazing stories. So it's just a matter of just reaching out and either talking to them to get the story or just help tell it. For the pictures that I took in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement, it was around the time of the death of George Floyd. And it was a moment of deep despair, considering what happened. So the fact that I came across all these cars that were entering the East of the River Shopping Center, and people from various backgrounds, ethnicity, coming together for this one movement, I was like, I have to get this on camera. And I had just came from an event that day. So I just grabbed another battery, cleared my SD card, and I headed out and I captured one of the most inspiring moments that I have seen amidst the pandemic and the tragedy.
Well, as a fellow educator, I'm inspired by the fact that what you said about how you couldn't get the artists that you wanted in particular to come to your school, so you trained yourself up to be an artist who could pass those skills to your students. That's the type of education and passion around it that we need, and that's what's going to take education to the next level. And I'm happy to see art embraced as a necessary part of the revolutionizing of education. And it's events like this and educators like you who are going to take that to this next level. So I thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I wanted to open up the floor for if anyone had any questions for any of the artists who were involved in the exhibit, for any of the artists who you saw perform, or for our curator, for our esteemed curator, Zudeka Nzinga Terrell. All right. If anyone had any questions, if you could, I think we've all become Zoom savvy enough in the last year, as a good positive side effect of all this craziness, where we know how to raise our hand virtually. So we get some raised hands going, and I could get host/co-host to unmute those folks so they can ask their questions. I just want to put that out there. Also, you could ask your question in the chat and we can see to it in that way. So, thoughts, questions, ideas, praise, whatever you got for any of the artists who were involved. And while you're thinking about that, I wanted to, if Bomani is still available, I wanted to ask him a question about his experience as a teaching artist in a pandemic. Clearly, I remember I've known you for 20 years, and I just remember right before all this happened, us talking about how things were changing and stuff was shifting, and gigs that we had planned for months were now being eradicated. And I wanted to ask you, how has pandemic life changed your approach as a teaching artist?
It's actually been it's actually just accelerated the plan I already had. My plot to take over the world. I was planning on going more virtual and being able to do more stuff with like the homeschool community that I work with and different schools around the country, because I've just recently in the last 4 or 5 years I've been able to travel more with my teaching artistry. And so I was like, how can I make sure I keep that going? So I think I had a plan over like the course of the next 2 years or 3 years, going half an hour a day, figuring out how to best, convert everything I'm doing to digitally to going online. And so I had the framework there. And then what, literally a year ago yesterday was like, boom, like you ain't got nothing else to do. I'm going back. Facebook and social media is good for bringing up the memories. My status update a year ago was like watching my rent money dissolve in a flurry of emails. Right. And so yeah. So it was scary for a moment. And then had to make a decision between just trying to find other gigs. Like I'd let my Lyft license lapse, so I didn't have like that random thing to go to anymore. I was trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, well, let me just concentrate, because they're gonna have to go virtual for a while. I was like, let me just concentrate on making my virtual really tight. And because I think a lot of people we're just trying to find as many jobs as possible. And that maybe should have been what I did. But at the time, it just seemed, let me just perfect this internet, social and virtual reality game. And so one of the few residencies that didn't get canceled, instead of canceling it, they sent me my per diem and my hotel money to get green screen equipment, which I'm using now. Boom. So that just set up the whole rest of the game. And so and this has been last year was really emotional. It was the first year without my father. And so it was like, this can't be the year where the world ends. You know what I'm saying? I had an injury that kept me like literally off my feet for like 4 months. And so it was hard watching it all happen. But evidently I had been setting up things into place that put me in the right place at the right time. So I got the green screen equipment. I started really perfecting the game, got a couple of professional development opportunities. And then when the fall happened and they realized everyone was going to still be virtual, they were looking for people who had really good, tight virtual stuff. Oh, and I also got a PPP loan, which got me through the summer. Definitely got me through the summer. But then when the fall hit, all these schools were like, okay, we got to do something, break up the monotony of the virtual, world, blah, blah, blah. We need someone who's ready to go virtual. And it doubled. As a matter of fact, it almost tripled, because what I used to have to do was pick whether I was going to do a residency in New Jersey or a PD in New Mexico or a residency in Baltimore. And 2 weeks ago, I did all three in the same day. Yeah.
Yeah, that part, bro. Right on.
Yeah.
Props for that. I love stories like that.
So it worked out. And so that's why I thank the ancestors in my situation in my community for putting me here, for putting me in a really good, like the art integration community in the state of Maryland and Washington, D.C. is, and I learned this from traveling now, is on a whole different level. You know what I'm saying? What people are doing here and challenging each other. That's why I've got, like, when I go other places, there's the guy who makes rap kids with the students. You know what I'm saying? And I've got peers here. We got a freaking, you know what I'm saying, Justice League of teaching rappers here, and we all, make each other better. And I think that's put us in a really good position. So now I'm teaching all over the country at once, and it's a lot of fun.
See, so what you just said to me makes me think of a quote: if you stay ready, you ain't got nothing to get ready for. You never know what you're getting ready for, but the continuous process of improving yourself will prepare you for things that you didn't even see coming. And so props to you for doing that work. I also see some really good questions coming up in the chat.
Wait. Before we move to the questions in the chat, I want to ask that of you, Drew. If you could talk as well about what has happened with Spoof School over the last year, because I know I've known both of you for close to 17 years. And so I knew you guys both when we was working regular teaching jobs and wanting to transition out of that. And then this last couple of years, we've all touched base about like, look, I'm getting out of this and I'm doing my own thing. And then we all kind of did it. And then it was like 2020. And so, I would love to hear a little bit from you. And I think I would love for everybody else to hear about Spoof School as well as your poetry endeavors.
Well, thank you, Zudeka. Spoof School is a program I started where I teach through parody. I help students make their learning fun by making fun of their learning. I teach them how to take their favorite songs or least favorite songs and take their catchiness, popularity, and simplicity and use it to write about whatever they want. All right. And so for the last few years, you know, I left the classroom. I was a science teacher full time, and then I just jumped out there and was bartending and waiting tables while I was building my teaching artistry empire. And so by every year, I would do more of the type of things that Bomani just described: traveling, going to venues, going to schools, doing assemblies, workshops, residencies, working with the students, and I loved it. Then came 2020, but I'm grateful for, I was just right before this, I did a workshop with students, and I was telling them how necessity is a mother of invention, and how a year ago, not everybody knew what Zoom was. Now, you know. And the thing is, necessity is a mother of invention, and it creates opportunities that wouldn't otherwise have been available. I'm grateful to be able to, I was just in New Orleans, my beloved hometown, and I was there and able to still work, you know, and I was able to still make things happen virtually. And so some of these things, even though we may not like the circumstances that brought them about, I hope that we are able to still use those opportunities to be able to go places that we don't have to physically be. So Spoof School, you know, you can find under that very name on Instagram. Spoof School is the Instagram handle. You can see some of the work that I've been able to do, doing like children's television programming and workshops, teaching hip hop, Shakespeare, and public speaking. And I really love the relationship I have with One World Education, who I met through the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities. And we do public speaking coaching where they take a concept that they're passionate about, write about it, speak about it, and compete as speakers and writers. And so I'm really, once again, we may not like the circumstances, but I'm grateful for the ability to still be able to do what I love through it. And so if I may, I know that Tammarrah had a question, and I also see some really great questions in the chat, and I think that they're around this teaching artistry piece, so they may be for Bomani in particular, or for whoever may be equipped, feel comfortable to chime in on them. But one question I see from Sandra is, share your thoughts on how the virtual platform can be incorporated as a regular practice. And just as a time check, we have about 15 minutes, and we have 3 questions at least. There may be more people who want to ask. So let's keep our answers as concise as possible, as much as we're loving the content. So Bomani, I'll field that to you. Share your thoughts on how the virtual platform can be incorporated as a regular practice.
Well, like I said, I was looking forward to doing things virtually anyway. So my world domination plan, my wife is from Kenya. My world domination plan is to skip winter from now on, to be in either Kenya or Ghana when it's January and February. And so that was the plan before pandemic. And now, like I said, it's kind of launched me. I gotta just, stay healthy and be able to take advantage of this time. They were telling me that even when schools go back full time, things like what I do is still going to be virtual. They're not going to bring people in for assemblies. They're not going to bring people in for residencies. They're still going to kind of try to keep, their classroom quarantined, or at least so it's easy to contact trace. If you got people coming in and out, it's going to make their job difficult. So no matter what, January, February of next year, I'm going to be virtual. So I've already called my folks in Kenya like this. Yeah, hopefully this is the last winter that I was here. If you pay me enough, I'll fly back to Texas or something. But so that was part of it. And then the other thing, there was one other point about how there's just a whole bunch of access that you can have right now, and I think this is going to stay anyway. Like I said, this is going to stay anyway. I think we're gonna have to teach your grandkids about snow days, because that's never gonna happen again. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about making this a normal part of everything else. I don't like I found a weird way to describe this. I'm an MC, I'm a hip hop artist. It's about tactile touch. The essence of what I do requires droplets. You know what I'm saying? I need to be close enough for you to inhale what I'm doing. And so I don't want this to be the only way that it happens. You know what I'm saying? We got to figure out a way that happens otherwise, but that human touch is literally everything. And so, finding a balance between the two, I'm excited about finding that balance.
Right on. Now I have a question from Michelle, then one from Tammarrah, and then we're going to have closing comments from Lauren Dugas Glover. So the question from Michelle is, how do you protect your art from being copied or stolen while also promoting your work online?
So my first step is to not worry about it. Not to ignore it, not to not have a lawyer and not understand copyrights and make sure that you're doing everything to copyright yourself. But I think sometimes that makes us be extra cautious. I feel like I have more than one incredible idea, so I'm not worried about people taking them and duplicating them. I also know that, especially for what I do, the first trepidation was making videos of it so teachers could use without me. And then, yeah, there's a way I can monetize from it if they use it, legally, but if not, I've lost it. But then there's something that I give, going back to saying that what I do requires droplets. There's something that you can only get from hiring Bomani Armah to do a residency. And as long as I keep that happening, then I think I'll be fine. I don't know, maybe there's some huge hit I'm gonna let go and lose millions of dollars, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I try to take some precautions, but I don't try to have that in the forefront of my mind, if that's helpful.
I want to tag team on that briefly. For visual artists, I always recommend that you find an attorney and get a cease and desist drafted. And the cease and desist letter is probably my most utilized legal form through the year. And just being able to have that type of conversation and understand what's okay for people to do and what's not okay for them to do is really helpful. But a lot of times when you're trying to engage people in conversation, they get really defensive. And so just hitting folks off with the cease and desist. And, one thing that I want to say is that Andre 3000 has this quote about how there's nothing new under the sun. Everybody gets the same ideas, and then you have a window of time to act on your idea. And the point should be to set the bar. And so, I always tell folks, people are going to copy you. People are going to have the same idea as you at the same time as you. And so that's fine. You just got to be constantly in the process of reinventing yourself. And when you come out with an idea, you got to be ready to come out with the next one and keep reinventing yourself. My sister-in-law is also in the room, Marissa Terrell, who's an attorney. She works with the Washington Association, or Washington Lawyer, WALA, the Washington Lawyers Association. And you guys should definitely connect with her, because she can help you if you are trying to figure out how to protect your work and what things to do to protect your work.
Thanks, Dave. This is Marissa. I would just say real quick, U.S. Copyright Office just launched a small claims court where you can bring any type of claims to them under $30,000. The good thing about that is that if you know a person who's infringed your work, that court will help you contact them so that at least you can, if you're not looking for additional statutory damages, you could at least get licensing fees, get them to pay what they should have paid you before they infringe. So that's a really great new tool for small, emerging folks and independent artists and folks who are not tied to giant law firms.
Outstanding. I mean, we could do a whole nother hour on just this conversation, because I'm feeling educated and innovated, and if innovated is a word. But anyway, I now want to get our last question from Tammarrah, and then we're going to move on to Lauren Dukas Glover with closing statements. So, Tammarrah?
So it actually wasn't a question. I feel somewhat like a fish out of water, only because we're all teaching artists, but I'm out of Virginia. So I see all you guys are DC, but I'm Virginia. But I think one of the artists said some really great information about the fact that now that we're in a pandemic, we actually get to utilize our talents. So he's correct. We're able to tap into our talents. And for me as a teaching artist, I was able to utilize that in my classroom, because I'm also a classroom teacher. And I was able to utilize the online, because we've been online forever, and we just went back to concurrent learning, which is another beast. But being able to use my artistry in the classroom, because it is boring now. The kids are now, everything is different. Being able to use theater and spoken word in the classroom has really made it more beneficial for the students. So teaching artistry is just now, teaching artists are now just really getting their just due. And I'm really happy that everyone is doing that, because we're now putting ourselves on a platform, and they do realize that the art form is valid and is needed. Just like you stated, now everyone needs us. You know what I mean? So I just think it's really great. And this is an excellent platform.
Thank you, Tammarrah. And now I would like to pass it to Lauren Dugas Glover for closing statements.
Well, thank you. I will say this is a hard act to follow. There's not much I can say to this. This has been a fabulous program from the beginning to the end, from our just reviewing this application, going through the selection process, just knew this was going to be a gem. So Judeka, thank you so much for your vision and your wisdom and pulling together such a magnificent show, exhibition, and just wonderful speakers. And mixing, you know, spoken word with visual arts, it's all connected. And, you know, sometimes we just think, well, it's visual, we're just going to look, but no, we use all of our senses. So this has just been a very rich evening. And I just, you know, I lead the public art department, the exhibition program, it comes under my department and is basically led by Sarah Gordon, who's also on this call. So I want to give a shout out to Sarah for, you know, pulling this program together, the grant program, and working with Judeka to really come up with this magnificent 6-week run event. It's hard to believe that we're coming to the end, and as mentioned before, tonight is not the last night. There's a painting program tomorrow, but it does officially, sadly, end on the 19th. So I want everyone, if you know, bring your friends, direct them to the site, have a chance to experience everything that you've seen here. And on behalf of the commission, I want to thank all of the participants tonight, Drew Anderson, Gumbo for Mumbo. Now that I know that you're from New Orleans, I understand that. Gumbo to Mumbo, I really can relate to that. Carol Seifert for your wonderful vocalization of your spoken word. Tammarrah Anderson and Khadijah Moon for your wonderful poetry. And Watermelon Man, I tell you, that was just an amazing program, and everyone's contribution and experience about what it means to be a teaching artist and what it means to be a professional is tremendously helpful. And also a special shout out to the Friendship Public Charter Schools for their involvement in developing this exhibition. So the exhibition, as you may or may not know, was supported through a grant from the Commission on the Arts and Humanities, and it's called our Art Exhibition Grant Program. If any of you are out there budding curators or no curators, please be on the outlook for next year's round of grants that will come live in May. And you can, of course, reach out to Sarah for any help and support in that. It is a competitive process, and as I said to you before, just from looking at this application, going through the adjudication, this certainly exceeded my expectations, and I had really high expectations, so thank you so much. And what I do want to say, I want to actually thank you, Judeka, for pointing out that, you know, the commission is more than grants, it's grants and beyond. And I just want to touch on that for a really quick moment. Appreciate your sister-in-law speaking out about WALA. WALA does do workshops for us from time to time on just that very topic and more. So you can find all these wonderful things on our website as we have more and more visual, as we have more and more workshops. We normally do them in person, but we all have found online videos. There's Zoom, there's WebEx, there's Google Meet. We have found a way to make that work and connect with people. So all of our programming is continuing. It's not just about grants. And if I could just maybe ask Sarah if she's, you know, might want to talk a little bit about, while we're saying goodbye to this program, we're saying hello to another program. And if she might say a few words. You know, again, we invite you to keep coming back to CAH, look to us for grants, look to us for all the other kinds of educational capacity building workshops that we do, and just to have a good time, because this was a really good evening. Being in isolation of the COVID, this was really, really a wonderful 2 hours. So Sarah, if you just have a second to maybe talk about the next program that's coming up.
Thanks, Lauren. Sure, I would be happy to. So I had put in the chat earlier on, we have another exhibition opening, as Sudeka mentioned, in our virtual gallery space on March 29th. It's called Our City Ourselves, Women Photograph Washington. And this will be a show of about 50 photographs by women photographers of Washington, DC. It's a really amazing way to look at some of our artists. These are all works from the DC Art Bank collection. And also just look at, the history of our city over the past 40 or so years. So that opens on March 29th. There's an opening event on March 30th, which will be a panel discussion. We have Leslie Arania, who's curator of photographs at the National Portrait Gallery, moderating a talk with photographers Sharon Farmer, Susanna Robb, and Kate McDonald on just what it means to be a photographer in DC today. So check out our website for those. I dropped them in the chat earlier. I'll mention too, I know we're almost out of time, but a couple of other really exciting events coming up. We're having a workshop on April 15th, which is for visual arts grant applications, steps to success. So if you are considering applying for one of our grants or really any visual art grants, I'd encourage you to attend that. We'll have some panelists for that as well. And then later in April, on April 22nd, we're going to have a really exciting artist showcase featuring poets and jazz musicians together. So again, keep your eyes on our website, follow us on social media, and just keep in touch. And I just want to quickly congratulate all of you. Thank you for the art you've done over the past year. And thank you for teaching our children. These are two things that have sustained us in really crucial ways during this year.
Thank you, Sarah. And also, please look at our website in early May for new grant opportunities, including the fellowship opportunities. And that's for all mediums in the arts, spoken words, visual, music, you name it, there's a fellowship for it. And look for that, look for the curatorial grant award and grant application. And just invite me to your next party, because I'm ready, and when we can finally get back together in person, I'll come then too. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I want to keep you guys on for about 2 more minutes because I want to give, if you are in the room, I want to give you a chance to please scroll back through the chat and get these websites from our teaching artists. It is us who have the opportunity, especially right now, to suggest to our administrators, to suggest to our organizations that we bring on people like Drew Anderson, like Baba's Got Bars, like Khadijah Moon, like Tammarrah. These are wonderful, wonderful resources for our education and community that I want you to reach out to. And I also want to make sure that everybody has the information and who to get in touch with from the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities for the grant opportunities that are coming up, and make sure that you get in touch with Wala and join Wala and get involved in these organizations and, utilize the resources that we have. DC is very, very rich in resources. I want to very quickly thank Beverly Hunt, who was our publicist for this event. Beverly got us on WHUR, WPFW, ABC7 Good Day DC, NBC News 4, Washington Informer, City Paper, print for the Washington Informer, and I was on the cover of East of the River, which was one of the most inspiring moments because as a Black woman and a curator, it was so important. And I was able to be interviewed by some students in a program that Khadijah Moon does with the Montgomery County Schools. And being, and one of the things they said to me was they had never heard of what a curator is. And so as a woman of color, I'm gonna try not to get in my feelings, but as a Black woman, being able to explain to some students that there are so many opportunities in the arts and that there is no starving artist. We make our opportunities for ourselves. I feel like, you know, we really had an opportunity in this exhibition to achieve what I would call revolution. And I would call it nothing short of that. And so, you know, I really want to thank her. I want to thank Sarah for all of the support. Drew Anderson, you are an amazing host, an absolutely amazing host. And, you know, I really hope that you guys follow him, follow up with Spit That, follow up with From Gumbo to Mumbo, and just make sure that we're connecting with each other and that we're supporting each other in our artist projects. I hope to be competing against some of you guys for another grant coming up here. So make sure that you follow up with the DC Commission. I'm gonna put on one song to just give you guys time if you need to go through the chat, or if you want to just shoot a comment to anybody and follow up on any questions while we have people here. So if anybody has any questions, if those of you from the commission and those of you who have organizations want to hang out for the length of one song, and just give a second for anybody to hit anybody in the chat, you know, we would love to see you guys. And thank you guys, thank you. I could not have done this without you. I could not have done this without friendship. Carol, Seifert, like, thank you.
If you get to worry, what you ought to do is sing. If you get worried, what you ought to do is sing. If you get worried, what you ought to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. If you get lost, what you ought to do is sing. If you get lost, what you ought to do is sing. If you get lost, what you ought to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about joy, sing about love and hoping and life. Sing about your trouble, just might pass, just might pass. If you get broken, what you ought to do is sing. If you get broken, what you ought to do is sing. If you get broken, what you ought to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. 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 Yeah, but it just might. Just might pass. Yeah, but it just might. Just might pass. Yeah, but it just might. Just might pass. Just might pass.
See you guys next time. Hold on for a strong 2021.